Madam Deputy Speaker, with your permission, I'd like to update the House on the Government's progress in establishing an infected blood compensation scheme. In July, the Infected Blood Inquiry published its additional report, and the report made a number of recommendations on ways the compensation scheme could be amended to achieve a scheme that works better for all infected and affected people. I updated the House then to confirm that the Government was responding positively the additional recommendations, that we would bring forward legislation as soon as we could to address the recommendations that we could implement immediately. And the regulations before the House today will achieve a number of those changes and demonstrate this Government's commitment to responding swiftly and constructively to the recommendations of the inquiry. Specifically, these recommendations respond to 5 of the inquiry's recommendations by removing the HIV eligibility start date, removing the minimum earnings threshold for a person to claim the Exceptional Financial Loss Award, removing the requirement for evidence of the date of diagnosis of hepatitis B or C, making changes to the deeming provisions for the severity of hepatitis C, and expanding eligibility to include estates of all affected people who've died between the 21st of May 2024 and the 31st of March 2031, which actually goes further than the inquiry's recommended date range. The regulations also put back the transfer of responsibility to make support scheme payments from the infected blood support schemes to the Infected Blood Compensation Authority, or IBCA, by 1 calendar year. This means IBCA will begin making phased support scheme payments from January to March 2027. IBCA requested this change to allow them to concentrate on accelerating the delivery of compensation and expanding the service to all eligible groups this year, whilst ensuring, which is essential, there is no disruption to those receiving support scheme payments. Now, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, there will be a separate opportunity for the House to debate these regulations in fuller detail before they're approved, and I, of course, look forward to that debate. I would also like to inform the House that we have implemented the inquiry's recommendation to reinstate support scheme payments to partners bereaved after the 31st of March this year until they have received compensation. Applications for those individuals reopened on the 22nd of October, and I'm grateful to colleagues across the devolved administrations and their support schemes for the collaborative approach to make this happen. Today, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm also launching a public consultation on proposed changes to the infected blood compensation scheme as recommended by the inquiry, and I encourage responses from the infected blood community and indeed all those with an interest in the infected blood inquiry, and I can assure you that every response, Madam Deputy Speaker, will be considered carefully. The consultation sets out questions across 7 issues, specifically harm caused by interferon treatment, the special category mechanism and its equivalents, severe psychological harm, past financial loss and past care, evidence requirements for exceptional loss, supplementary awards for affected people and unethical research. The Government has sought initial advice from an infected blood compensation scheme technical expert group to develop proposals on these topics in response to the inquiry's additional report for this public consultation. The feedback that we receive through the consultation will inform the decisions the Government takes, and the technical expert group will also take part in targeted engagement with the community. Now, I previously gave the House an undertaking that transparency will be at the heart of any expert group going forward. That's why the 5 additional members that have been appointed to the technical expert group were appointed following valuable feedback from the infected blood community stakeholders, and it's why I'm also today, Madam Deputy Speaker, publishing the minutes of the meetings of the group that have taken place so far. I look forward to hearing the views of the community within the consultation process and beyond as we work together to ensure the Government's response meets expectations. We will publish a response to the consultation on gov.uk within 12 weeks of it closing, and as I set out in July, we will also need to bring forward further regulations next year to implement changes following the outcome of the consultation. Listening to and working with the infected blood community is essential to ensure a compensation scheme which works for everyone, and I am hopeful the consultation will allow us to do just that. I now turn, Madam Deputy Speaker, to the delivery of the compensation scheme as it currently stands. IBCA has made significant progress in the delivery of compensation. As of the 21st of October, 2,476 people have received an offer of compensation, and over £1.35 billion has now been paid. IBCA reached that significant milestone of having paid out over £1 billion in compensation last month. I'm sure the House will agree that this is a welcome and notable progress in delivery of compensation. And I can also tell the House that there are offers that have now been made totalling over £1.8 billion. As of the end of September, all infected people registered with a support scheme have been contacted to begin their claim, and IBCA has set out its intention to open to unregistered infected people in November. In order to open, IBCA must build a service which allows them to confirm an infection before a claim begins, check the identity of each person claiming, and ensuring that all the necessary legal and financial support is in place for anyone who wishes to use it. This approach, which IBCA also took with the first group of people making a claim, means that the numbers will initially be lower, but I expect that, as with the first group, those numbers will rise exponentially as progress is made. Now, earlier this month, Madam Deputy Speaker, IBCA also launched a registration service for people who intend to make a claim to register their details. As of the 21st of October, they have received 10,573 registrations of intent to make a compensation claim. But to be clear, what that figure is all registrations. It's not unique people or claims. These registrations will be particularly helpful to identify the unregistered infected people for the next group, and indeed more as the service grows. Now, as members of the House will be aware from my previous statements on this matter, IBCA is an independent arm's-length body, and it's vital we respect that independence whilst also ensuring I do what I can to drive progress forward. So that is why in July I had asked for an independent review of IBCA's delivery of the scheme. That review, led by Sir Tyrone Urch, began in August and concluded earlier this month. And today I'm publishing that review, and I've deposited a copy in both libraries of the House. And what the report notes is that IBCA has made, and I quote, substantial early progress, close quotes, toward delivering compensation to victims of infected blood. But the report also makes recommendations to aid the scaling up of operations and delivery of compensation to complex cohorts, and I will of course be considering all those recommendations carefully. Alongside IBCA's delivery of the compensation scheme, the Government has also continued to make progress on interim payments. In July, I informed the House that we would make a further interim payment of £210,000 to the estates of infected persons who were registered with an infected blood support scheme or predecessor scheme and had sadly passed away, in addition to the interim payments of £100,000 which opened for application in October 2024. I'm pleased that applications for those payments opened last week, meaning that some estates could now be eligible for up to £310,000 in interim payments. Since applications for the initial interim payments opened last year, over 600 estates have received payment, totalling over £60 million. That's in addition to the £1.2 billion the Government has paid in interim compensation more widely. I hope that this additional interim payment brings some temporary relief to the families impacted. I hope that IBCA's intention to begin the first claims on behalf of estates of deceased infected people by the end of this year provides some reassurance. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, I am resolute that we get this right. And I hope that the progress that I've set out today shows that we are taking positive action, and crucially as well that we are listening to and making progress alongside the community. After all, those who have been so impacted by this horrendous scandal must be at the core of every decision we make in government and indeed across this House. They deserve no less. And I commend this statement to the House.